My name is Julia Roth, and if you met me today, you wouldn't guess that my hands still sometimes tremble, that my smile might fade a little too quickly. It's not because I don't have a marvelous life. I do. I live in San Francisco. I am a successful digital art curator, and my fiancé, Leo, is a real-life superhero who reminds me every day what love is supposed to feel like. But 5 years ago, I was just a ghost. A good daughter living in a small, cheap apartment near my parents' house, making the weekly pilgrimage to Sunday brunch, where I was slowly, piece by piece, drained dry. It was all built on a lie, a $500,000 lie. This story isn't just about money. It's about the impossible conditions toxic families place on love and the terrifying freedom that comes when you finally refuse to pay the price. My dream was ambitious, especially for a girl raised in the quiet, stifling expectations of a Connecticut suburb. I wanted to pursue a PhD in art history, specialize in digital curating, move to New York, and see the world with my own eyes. My parents, David and Barbara, were the pillars of their community. Dad was a corporate lawyer, known for his stern demeanor and impeccable suits. Mom was the quintessential homemaker, whose true job was maintaining the family's image of success and traditional values. For them, my ambition was not a goal, it was a threat. A PhD? New York? Mom once scoffed, her voice sharp as glass. Julia, that is irresponsible. What will you do with that? You'll be alone. Here, we have your support system. You can teach at the local community college and be settled. You know family comes first. I learned early on that their support meant control, and family first meant their needs above mine. I was meant to be the respectable, unthreatening daughter, always within their orbit. I knew the only way out was financial independence. I took my first job at a local gallery, low pay, long hours. I worked every weekend, picking up freelance graphic design gigs late into the night. I ate canned soup, skipped every major vacation, and drove the same hand-me-down car for 6 years. I didn't care about comfort. I cared about my number, $500,000. That figure, I calculated, would give me the down payment for a tiny NYC apartment, cover my first year of tuition, and provide a buffer until I found my footing. Every saved dollar was an emotional shield, a step closer to a life where I was Julia, not an extension of the Roth family brand. It was a sacred private mission, a secret vow against the expectations that were suffocating me. That particular Sunday morning in November felt normal, which, in retrospect, was the first warning sign. Mom had made her famous pumpkin spice pancakes, and the house smelled aggressively of cinnamon and control. My older sister, Eliza, arrived with her husband, Brad. Eliza, 3 years my senior, had always been the golden child. She had followed the path, joining Dad's law firm. But behind the facade, she and Brad, a perpetually failing real estate developer, were a financial disaster. Brad's last 2 ventures had ended in near bankruptcy, forcing my parents to discreetly bail them out with equity loans on the family home. As we were settling down, Mom dropped the bomb with terrifying ease. Julia, how much have you accumulated now? Roughly. I choked on my coffee. I don't know what you mean, Mom. Dad lowered the Wall Street Journal, his eyes stern. Don't be coy, Julia. Your mother and I monitor your statements. We helped you set up the account. We have to ensure you are being financially responsible. The chill that ran through me was absolute. They had been watching. My privacy, my sacrifice, my hard-won independence, all were being monitored and assessed. I was a financial asset to them, not a human being. That's private information, I managed, trying to sound stronger than I felt. Eliza jumped in, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Oh, come on, Julia. It's family. Anyway, we have some wonderful news that concerns you. Brad then launched into his pitch, a new, highly leveraged condo project in Florida called Ocean Vista Resorts. He used buzzwords, complex charts, and projected revenue streams. It was all smoke and mirrors. We lost a major anchor investor, Brad admitted, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. But Eliza and we realized the solution was right here, family financing. Julia, your $500,000 is the perfect capital injection to secure the land deal. You'll be a silent partner. I just stared at them, the audacity breathtaking. You want to take my house money, my freedom money, and put it into one of your doomed ventures? I've already told you, I'm going to New York. Mom's smile vanished. New York? Julia, be serious. Your art is a pleasant hobby. This investment is real. Brad projects you could make $800,000 in 2 years. You could buy a house, a real house, right here in Connecticut. Eliza started to cry, turning the situation instantly emotional. Julia, please, we are struggling. This is my chance. We're drowning in Brad's debts, and Dad can't keep covering us. If you don't help, where is the family loyalty? Loyalty? I finally exploded, my chair scraping back loudly. Loyalty is not monitoring my personal accounts. Loyalty is respecting my life choices. I sacrificed 6 years of my life to save that money, not so you guys could gamble it away on a pipe dream. Dad intervened, his voice taking on the dangerous corporate lawyer tone he used when closing a deal. You will help your sister, Julia. You are part of this family, and you will meet this obligation. I will not, I said, my voice shaking with a newfound strength. I refuse to be financially responsible for your mistakes. Mom delivered the killing blow, her voice utterly devoid of warmth. If you do not agree to fund Eliza by the end of the week, you will never set foot in this house again. You are dead to us. We will not have a selfish member in this family. The silence was deafening. I looked at their faces, the cold judgment in Dad's eyes, the manipulative tears in Mom's, the desperate entitlement in Eliza's. They weren't my family. They were creditors demanding payment. They had chosen money and the illusion of success over their daughter. I turned and walked out. I didn't say goodbye. I drove to the nearest state border, changed my phone number, and blocked their emails. I had been disowned. And in the terrifying, immediate aftermath of that rejection, I felt an exhilarating, intoxicating wave of freedom wash over me. I could finally breathe. The following year, I moved to New York. With my $500,000, I secured a small, quiet apartment in Brooklyn and enrolled in my dream PhD program. The money wasn't just a down payment. It was my security blanket, my shield against the past. I poured myself into my work, forging a new life, a new identity, one that was purely mine. I made friends who didn't know my parents, friends who valued my mind and my creative spirit. I learned that true family wasn't defined by blood, but by choice and unconditional respect. 5 years passed. I finished my PhD, landed an amazing role as a digital art curator, and most importantly, I met Leo. He was a nonprofit attorney, stable, supportive, and emotionally transparent. Everything my childhood lacked. We were talking about marriage, about buying a home together, about finally creating the safe, loving haven I always craved. My life was peaceful, drama-free, and authentically mine. Then, the past clawed its way back. I received an email on my old, rarely checked account. Sender, Eliza Roth. Subject, urgent. Mom and Dad in crisis. I opened it, my heart sinking. Eliza's frantic message explained the obvious. Brad's venture had collapsed. Not only did they lose everything, but they were deeply indebted. Worse, Mom and Dad had taken out a second mortgage on the family home to cover Brad's last-minute funding gap. Now, the bank was foreclosing. Brad is gone, Eliza wrote. He took what little money was left and fled. We need your help. You're doing so well, Julia. You can save us. You have to come home. I drove back the next Saturday, my new resolve shielding me like armor. The house looked tired, smaller than I remembered. The energy inside was brittle. Mom looked genuinely distraught. Dad was pale and defeated. And Eliza was a mess of self-pity. We're going to lose the house, Julia, Mom whispered, tearing up immediately. We need $200,000 to settle the bank and stop the foreclosure. I stayed standing. Why am I here? I asked calmly. Eliza spoke, her voice thick with desperation. We know you've done well in New York. You bought an apartment. You can sell it, Julia. You can lend us the money. It's the family home. I looked at them, my voice steel. You kicked me out 5 years ago because I wouldn't gamble my savings on your failed business. Now that you have collectively ruined your own finances, you call the corpse back to perform a duty? It's your duty, Dad shouted, regaining some of his old bluster. We raised you. This is about respect for your parents. Respect? I countered, feeling a cold fury. Respect is not monitoring my accounts and threatening to disown me when I refuse to be a human ATM. I built my life with my savings, not by borrowing from you. I will not sell my home, and I will not give you 1 single cent. Mom went for the ultimate emotional low blow. You are selfish. You have everything, and you're letting your old mother and father become homeless. We're too old to start over. Then you understand exactly how I felt 5 years ago, I said. You were willing to let me start over with nothing. I am not financially responsible for the financial hole Brad and Eliza dug, and which you enabled. If you want to save the house, sell the Lexus, sell the jewelry, downsize, you make the sacrifice. I walked out, leaving them speechless. I drove back to New York and felt a triumphant sense of closure. I was done, but they weren't done with me. A month later, the call came from the Lincoln Police Department. Ms. Roth, we are calling about your parents. They have been arrested for burglary and aggravated vandalism. I was utterly confused. What? Where? At your old New York City address, 78B East Street. I sold that house 3 years ago, I exclaimed. The detective explained the insane truth. My parents had hired a private investigator who tracked down my old address. They drove up, convinced I still lived there. They intended to vandalize my property, to cause so much damage that I would be forced to bail them out just to make the harassment stop. They broke in and began a systematic campaign of destruction, smashing furniture and spray painting obscenities on the walls. The new owner, an elderly NYU professor named Erasmus, came home to find them in his living room, destroying his belongings. They hadn't hurt me, but they had violently destroyed a stranger's life and property in their pathetic attempt at revenge. The damage was estimated at over $75,000, including some antique pieces. They were facing serious criminal charges. The legal fallout was immediate and devastating for them. To avoid jail time and cover the court-ordered restitution and legal fees, my parents had to do exactly what they claimed was impossible. They had to sell their home. They lost their house anyway, but the money went to Professor Erasmus and their lawyer, not to their own debt or to Eliza. Eliza, seeing that the ATM was permanently broken and the reputation was ruined, abandoned them too. A friend told me the final, crushing irony. David and Barbara are now renting a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. They're living with Eliza, who blames them for losing her inheritance, and they blame her for the bad investment. They hate each other, Julia. They are finally trapped together, paying for the lie. The doubt I occasionally felt about cutting off my family vanished completely. They didn't just disagree with my choices. They committed actual crimes because I wouldn't submit to their manipulation. I chose my peace. I chose my financial security. A few weeks later, Leo proposed. He did it in the beautiful new house we were buying, the one he had helped me pick out. Julia, he said, holding the ring, you are the hero of your own story. You built a life where no one can hurt you or control you again. Will you marry me and let's build a real, unconditional life together? We got married next year, surrounded by friends who became my chosen family. I occasionally hear about my biological family, the debt, the fighting, the misery, but those moments of curiosity last only 30 seconds. Because I remember the truth. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who place the most impossible conditions on that love. And walking away from that toxicity is not being selfish. It is the single most loving and necessary act you can perform for yourself. I chose to build a life with someone who loves and supports me unconditionally. I chose to protect my financial security and my mental health. I chose freedom. And freedom, I've learned, is worth every single sacrifice it takes to achieve. Enjoyed the story? Stick around. Hit that subscribe button for more gripping tales coming your way.